up, tribe? How you guys doing? A new show alert. So there's a new show coming on called Filthy Rich. Um, Comes on Fox, and I was like, let me check it out and let me see if maybe this is something I can add to review. And it's when it first started off, I was like, if you guys look at the Righteous Gemstones on HBO, I thought it was gonna be along those lines, and it is similar, but it's not the same. So we're dealing with the Monroe family, right? They're an evangelical family out of New Orleans. We meet them. Well, we open up with Margaret Monroe, who's played by Kim Cattrall. She comes walking out of a house that is burning down, and basically she's like, go to hell, burn in hell, whatever. But it is clear that she is done with this house, and she probably even had something to do with the house burning down. Then we flash back to a couple of weeks before that, and we see her praying, and her husband comes in with this big old ring, and it's like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Oh, the Lord is good. Oh, God is good. And we see that her family, they run this whole evangelical network, sort of like, a la the Jim Baker days, right? And she has like a whole thing, like a cooking thing that she does, and she's got a preacher, and she has two kids, Rose and I wrote the names down. Y'all I wrote the names down. Rose and Eric. Now Rose wants to be a fashion designer, and she does all of her mother's clothing in, but her mother don't want to give her credit. Her mother doesn't want to encourage her or push her along. I don't know if that's because her clothes ain't that good, or if the mom is just being harsh because she said something to the effect of, you can't just give your kids everything they want just because they want it. And so I was like, okay, well maybe, I'm not sure if it's like tough love or what. Eric wants to be in charge. He wants to be CEO. Now, Eric is married. His wife is the minister's sister. That's how they're all connected. And the minister, that he sort of has something with the Monroes. He's there. He knows they can help him on the come up, but it doesn't seem like he respects them a whole lot. And he really does have his third eye looking at them and keeping an eye on what's going on and what the family's doing. Now, they have a show, and they announced that in 4 weeks' time, in a month, they're getting ready to start their own online shopping network, sort of like the religious version of Walmart, right? And so they're going to have this not Walmart, Amazon. So they're going to have this really big launch and all this good stuff, it's going to be going on. Now, Eugene, who's the father, he says, hey, I got to get back to D.C. I got to fly back to D.C. tonight. I have some business to take care of. And Margaret's like, oh, man, you got to leave so soon. He said, yeah, but I'll be back, I'll be back in a few days. And when I get back, we'll, pick up where we left off, so to speak. And we see him on the private jet, honey. He half naked with a bunch of, ladies of the night. And it is clear that whole evangelical thing is like for the public, but in private, daddy is a freak. But then the plane crashes. Now, they can't find the body, but they assume he is dead. And so, because nobody else survived. So they were like, well, if ain't nobody else survived, ain't no way he survived. So they move forward with executing his will. Here's where we get into the good stuff. Oh, Mr. Eugene used to have these moments where he would get drunk and feel guilty, and he would change his will. And when he would change his will, he would include his 3 illegitimate children that he knew about, but nobody else. Then he would get sober, and he would go back to the original will that only acknowledged the 2 kids that he had with his wife. Then he would get drunk again, and he would change the will. Now, who was taking care of all of this? The trustee family lawyer, right? Now, the trusty lawyer is played by Steve Harris, who is actually one of my favorite actors. My favorite role for him will always be The Practice. Anyway, so he's sort of back in his space playing a lawyer. And so he's the family lawyer, and he's sort of there for, he knows the good, the bad, the ugly, but he's there. And I feel like there's a genuine love there. I kind of feel like he got a little something for Miss Margaret, but we may or may not see that be explored. We're going to let that go. So, of course, he has to tell Margaret the bad news and say, listen, this is your husband's will, which includes 3 children that I know you didn't know anything about. And so, of course, she is reactionary. She's upset. And she was like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? And he was like, wait a minute. like, I'm gonna let you have part of this, but what you're not gonna do is sit here and act like you ain't know your husband was a cheater. And she was like, I mean, I knew he had one night stands. Like, I did not realize he had like full blown like kids and stuff. And Steve is kind of like, all right, well, that's what he got going on. So then she has to tell the kids, and of course they are reacting the way anybody else will react. One, you in this big evangelical family, you think your father keeps preaching about living righteous, living righteous, living righteous, and he got one. He don't have one, not two, not but three illegitimate children. That don't count. Maybe how many affairs he done had. Those are just the kids that he bared, and then you get to the money piece of it. So now my inheritance, which I thought was gonna be split in half because they rich, rich. I thought was gonna be split in half is now gotta be split five ways. Oh, Houston, we have a problem. So Margaret comes up with a plan that she's gonna, of course they all have to come, for the execution of the will and the reading of the will. So when they get there, she invites them all down for, hummingbird cake, honey. That cake looked good too. It was like 3 layers. It was real thick, light, fluffy. Anyway. And she invited them down to talk to them. And she basically said, listen, we ain't know nothing about y'all. I'm sorry that, my husband was a, ain't shit daddy to y'all. But what you're not going to do is become a part of the family now. So this is what we're going to do, okay? I'm going to offer each one of y'all $1 million. Oh, let me rewind. I done went too fast. I done went too far. So they summoned all 3 of the children. So let me tell you a little something about the churn, okay? So the first one, her name is Ginger. Now, Ginger is running a brothel down into Las Vegas, where it's not a brothel because the women, women aren't actually having sex. It's sort of like a call-in video, and then you can you call in, you pay, and then the women are on screen doing sexual things. So it's not a brothel per se, but it is entertaining. The ladies of the night situation. Okay. And she's running that, and we see her with her mother, and her mother is obsessed with them. She's watching the whole TV show of them on, with the family, talking about their new club that they're getting ready to open up, all of that good stuff, right? Then we see Antonio. Now, Antonio is a single dad, and he is in New York. He looks like he's like an MMA fighter or a boxer or something like that, and he's a single dad. Then we have Jason. When we see Jason is building up. He is building up a weed cannabis factory. Okay. So she summons all 3 of them down to talk to them, and like I said, she says, "Listen," because of course, now Ginger knew exactly who her father was. Ginger knew, but Antonio ain't know nothing. And Antonio mama must not have told him whatever the situation was. Antonio ain't know nothing. So for a single father, so she offers each one of them $1 million. Antonio was ready to take it. He like, shit, $1 million, that could change me and my child's life. Like, I'm a single dad struggling. I don't have nothing. Jason is down for it. Jason is like, cool, I'll take the money. But Ginger is like, no, hell no, I'm not doing it. First of all, I know y'all are worth way more than that, and I know that my inheritance should be more than this little $1 million you're trying to give me. No, I'm not going to take it. Because, of course, if they accept it, they got to sign an NDA and all that good stuff. And basically, y'all go back to where y'all came from, and we're going to keep living the way we living, and you just forget that this man was ever your father. Now, Ginger ain't buying it. And there's this reporter that is sniffing around, and he knows something's going on. He feels it in the air, right? He knows there's a scandal somewhere. And he rolls up on Ginger, and he, says, listen, I'm an investigative reporter. If you got something to tell me, I will be here to take it. Give me a call. So she takes his card, and, they move on. They going through the motions or whatever. So Ginger is trying to convince the other 2 brothers. Of course, they got to take a DNA test to prove, So Ginger's trying to convince the other brothers not to take the settlement, and they are ready to take it. Like, they're ready to rock and roll. Now, everybody's DNA test came back fine except for Jason's. Jason's came back inconclusive, and he had to take it again. And what we find is we see Jason go up into a hospital room, and there's a guy there that's in a coma, and he gets a DNA sample off of the guy in the coma. And then he goes over to the couch, and there's a lady on the couch asleep looking at the Monroe TV show, which, gives you the impression that that's the mama. And the brother is really the guy in the bed. Now, to Jason's credit, well, it ain't even no credit. when the um when the process server showed up to serve the papers, she said, "Are you Jason so and so?" And he was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." And so he got the paperwork. But whatever happened to the real Jason, he's in a coma, and that's his brother or somebody. Well, I feel like it's his brother because he went over to the woman in the chair. He was, kissed her on her cheek because she was asleep. So we already see that there's something going on with that situation. So Ginger is like, no, I want to, I want my piece of the pie. And Margaret is like, listen, she can't hang in high society. So I'm going to, let's invite her to high tea, to the ladies' tea, the little luncheon. She's speaking at the luncheon. And honey, Ginger shows up in this good old fashioned Tara, what's the girl from Gone with the Wind? Um, what's her name? Gone with the Wind? Oh, I know it's O'Hara. Anyway, y'all know who I'm talking about with the big old hoop skirt and the whole antebellum thing going on. And of course, she's there to try to embarrass them. And Margaret tells her point blank, like, listen, you're not embarrassing me. You making yourself look like an ass. So if that's how you want to play this, sure, we can play it that way. Now, Rose is totally enthralled with Miss Ginger. Like, because Rose is looking at Ginger like, girl, you are my spirit animal. Like, you are doing and saying all the things I wish I could do and say to my mother. And I appreciate you so much. But now Miss Margaret going to switch the tables when she goes up to give her little keynote address. She says, I really want to highlight some other, business women we have. And I have Ginger, whatever here, who happens to run her own business in Las Vegas. Why don't you come up and speak to the girls? Because it was for like a scholarship for some young ladies, and so they were all there on the front row. She said, "Why don't you come and speak to the ladies and tell them all about your business?" So of course Ginger comes up there looking crazy, not ready, and of course you ain't about to sit here and tell a bunch of little kids that you run a call girl situation. Again, not a call girl. I don't know the right word, but y'all know what I'm saying. A ladies of the night situation. Okay. And Margaret, she says, "Oh, you have a little bit of stage fright? Oh, okay. Well, we'll come on and take you off the stage." So she tells her, she says, "Listen, this is not you'll never fit in here. Like, you're not good enough. You're not one of us. You'll never be one of us. And just because your dad, had a 20-minute whoops with your mom does not make you a part of my family. So take the settlement and go back to where you came from." Right? Now, on the other side, Mr. Eric, when they found out about them illegitimate children, the one thing Margaret told Eric was, don't tell your wife. Because knowing that the wife was going to end up telling her brother, who was the minister, and they already got friction, and she already feel like he's trying to take over her channel and take over her show. But of course, what did he do? He ran and told his wife, and he was like, "But that's my wife," and I understand that. But the flip side too is you understand why your mother didn't need your wife in on this, right? At least right now, let me figure everything out. Let me get everything the way I need it before you and your wife come through here with the foolery, okay? And the minister. But of course, now the minister then came to them and let them know that he know what's up, and he's sort of blackmailing them without blackmailing them, and said, "Listen, you're going to make Eric the CEO. You're going to put Eric in charge and make him the CEO because that's the position he deserves, And of course, I'm sure once Eric is CEO of the company, it's going to position him where he wants to be." So Margaret calls Eric down and says, "Listen, you're not ready. Like, I know this is what you want. I feel all of that. But you're not ready to be CEO. I'm sorry." Of course, Eric ain't trying to hear it. He ain't happy about it. And it is what it is. So the lawyer comes through and lets them know, listen, they are hesitating about this whole taking the settlement situation, what you want me to do. And Margaret says, listen, invite them down to the country house for the weekend. And let's get to know them a little bit better so we can, basically convince them that they need to take this damn money. So they come down to the country house, and by now they done increased it. I think they done increased it to $2 million now. And she still has on her, her smiley face and cooking good meals and all of that. And Now, Jason and Rose, who think they're brother and sister, now again, remind you, they're at the best in this situation, they're half brother and half sister, because they would have the same father. No, they're not connected at all. In real life, they're not connected at all because, yeah, in real life, they're not connected at all. And they like each other. And they actually even kiss, but of course, they immediately feel like, oh my God, what did I just do? I just kissed my brother. But in real life, that ain't your brother. Now, he know that ain't really his sister, but she don't know that ain't really her brother. Then we have Antonio, who's a single dad. Margaret is starting to kind of like the little baby a little bit. You know, people can't resist the baby. People can't resist the baby. Excuse me. So Margaret is starting to kind of warm up to him a little bit, and she got a little bit of his story. And he's, you know, she said, "Where's the mother?" And he was like, "She ain't a part of this. You know, she's not in the picture." And so they kind of had a little dialogue. But her and Ginger, honey, still going at it. Still going at it. So, later on that night, the lawyer brings Ginger a letter and says, "Listen, your father knew exactly who you were. Okay? Your father knew who you were, and he wrote you this letter. He kept up with you. He knew where you were living. He knew what you were doing. Like, he kept tabs on you. He knew who you were." So it was this really nice letter talking about how he had been following her and he knew how great she was and all these wonderful things, and he was so proud of her, and like all the things that you ever want to hear, right? Come from the dad that you thought didn't think about you, give a damn about you, know nothing about you, kind of thing. And so she, of course, now is feeling some kind of way. She crying and everything, and then something happens. I don't even know how it happened, child. But she realized that her dad was left-handed like she was, but the handwriting was by someone who was right-handed. Now, I don't know how the hell she could tell by looking at the letter that it was from a right-handed person, but neither here nor there. She confronts Margaret about it and was like, "Did you write this letter?" And, of course, Margaret was like, "Girl, listen. I'm trying to do what I got to do to keep what I got to keep and keep it away from everybody and keep as much money as possible." And so Ginger storms off, and it's at that moment that she calls the investigative reporter. And they set up a whole thing where they were going to do this whole press conference and expose everything. Well, honey, and this is where I knew that we were dealing with a formidable opponent. Ginger, shows up at the Ginger shows up at the hotel the next day, ready to tell all and tell her story before the world. And that investigative reporter comes up to her and says, "Listen, there's been a change in plans. There's been a little bit of a problem." And, let me rewind. Before that, the minister tried to force Margaret to tell the truth, too. And Margaret, she dibbled and dabbled out of that. So she got the minister sort of blackmailing her. She got Ginger sort of blackmailing her. And she's feeling some kind of way about the whole thing, right? She's feeling some kind of way about it. Even tried to get Eric. The minister even tried to get Eric to snitch and tell what was going on. And she was able to talk Eric off of it, but she knew that the pressure was on. So the investigative reporter lets Ginger know, "Listen, we need to abort mission because my editor called me this morning and basically told me that I had to cover this press conference and open up the door, and who is standing in the front is Miss Margaret, and who is telling the whole world that her husband had these 3 illegitimate children." I said, "Well, there's that. Any leverage that any of y'all had over her head is gone, because at the end of the day, it ain't her, it's him." And I'm sure they have a whole plan to save face, honey. But that is how the episode ended. So listen, we're gonna go ahead and keep it moving, and y'all let me know how y'all like it. Y'all go check it out and let me know what y'all think. Talk to y'all later. Peace. Oh my goodness, I hope y'all are still here. I totally forgot the best part of the episode. So at the very end, who is still alive? Eugene. Got saved by some woman down into the swamp, honey, and he is on, she is nursing him back. I hope we don't have a misery situation going on. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot to add that, y'all. But it is. Peace.